Hey there, listeners. This is Denis, and welcome to today's episode. Great to have you here with me today. We're going to, of course, do a special three-part series in relation to the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. And the actual title of these episodes is going to be A World Leader, A Final Farewell. And, of course, it'll be three parts. And today, what we're going to be doing is getting into part one. And let's discuss.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas.
Hey, welcome to the show, Leadership is Changing. What we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Leaders everywhere confront similar obstacles because people are people, but everywhere you go, leaders are overwhelmed, disrupted, and under pressure. They run from email to email, meeting to meeting. Many leaders are not changing quick enough, which means they run the risk of becoming irrelevant and being left behind. So perhaps the show is taking our listeners' leadership to another level by finding their balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. I believe we don't have enough effective leaders in the world today, and if we can get the leaders to step up and lead change, then they can inspire real change. Hey listeners, it's now time to adapt in our fast-moving world. Hey listeners, welcome to this week's episode whereby I'm going to be talking to you in three different parts about Queen Elizabeth, and let's get underway about it and start talking about it. As I've said before, you know, Queen Elizabeth is the UK's longest serving monarch. Then she died at Balmoral, aged 96, after reigning for 70 years. Massive, very much so. And, of course, the BBC came out and announced the actual passing of the Queen, that Buckingham Palace had denounced it. And there are these key words that a lot of officials around the world used for the Queen's death, and that was London Bridge has fallen. And so that was the code words for when the Queen had passed away. And so, of course, they were used. And, of course, the Queen is the mother to 4 children, grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and we see them now as they mourn the passing of the Queen. Queen Elizabeth II came to the throne in 1952, and witnessed some enormous social change over her period of time as the Queen. The passing has been deeply felt throughout the UK, those other countries that she's been the ruler or the head of state, and of course the Commonwealth and the world. The world has really been amazing to see how much they've been touched globally by her passing as well. The coronation of the Queen was done in June 1953, and that's when she was sort of the coronation, and of course it was televised for the very first time around the world, and you could see how technology was starting to meet that time of the world, and what we see nowadays is amazing how quickly we see it around the world. Her husband, Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, passed away last year on 9th of April 2021. And I actually had the privilege of meeting him and speaking to him, or he spoke to me in Greek because he has a Greek background as well. And I've actually got another episode, I've already done that on Prince Philip, which is called A Royal Leader. And 2022 has been a big year for the monarch about the celebration of the Platinum Jubilee, whereby we celebrated 70 years of Queen Elizabeth II being on the throne. And when we talk about service, you can't beat the service that she has given to the world. And as we talk about this over the three parts, I'm going to be talking about what Queen Elizabeth has brought to the throne, to that role, to her period of time that she has actually served the actual UK, the Commonwealth and so forth, but also the world in relation to leadership. And I'm going to be going through that with you all too. At the age of 19, she joined the Auxiliary Territorial Service, the ATS, and she trained to be a driver and a mechanic as well. But on the 21st birthday, we heard these famous words being said by the Queen from South Africa, where she was broadcasting to the world. And these words went along like this: I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service. And then on her coronation day in 1953, she said these words, "I have sincerity pledged myself to your services as so many of you have pledged to mine. Throughout all my life and with all my heart, I shall strive to be worthy of your trust." Pretty amazing words in what she has said in both different areas on her 21st birthday and on her coronation day. One was about her committing to service and serving us all, and the second one was about being worthy of our trust. So today I want to talk about the sort of three words that came up for me in relation to the Queen, but also there'll be over the other two parts as well. I will also go through some other areas around leadership and what I'm seeing here. But, being committed to doing something. She actually kept her word for 70 years, right to her death. And it's amazing to see that. How many leaders do you know keep their word fully? Bang on. Have been committed, and they're staying committed all the time. Number two, trust. Being worthy of your trust, and how she talked about that. And then the third one, of course, is around service. What service she has provided over 70 years to us all, which has been pretty amazing. Now, let's dive into each one of them separately. So let's talk about commitment. So at a young age, Queen Elizabeth II committed to the rest of her life to serve. Now, that's a huge announcement that she made. But also, we didn't know how big that was going to be until now, right? Of course, because she's now passed away. But it's been 70 years. At the time, people might have gone, yep, okay. But in those days, you didn't know how long people would live. In fact, people didn't live for too long. But as things in modern technology and medicines and so forth, people have been able to live a lot longer, which has been really amazing. And this has been a big lesson to us all about commitment. We see people doing roles, we see them doing jobs and businesses for a short period of time, and the commitment is there. But I've never seen it on the scale like this before. In the 70 years, it's just huge. And I don't think that we will see someone like this again, committing to something and sticking at it for so long. Commitment, in other words, I'm saying that she's all in. She was always all in, day in and day out. When she got up in the morning to the time she went to sleep, and while even she was sleeping, she was still committed. She was the Queen. And it's a big factor in leadership. We would love to see you commit more. I would love to see leaders committing, serving, and doing things that they say that they were going to do. In other words, if they commit to doing something, they follow through and they make it happen. The second word is around trust. And it's what she said was being worthy of your trust. In her coronation, she said those words, and the Queen is shown to build trust and credibility right around the world, not just in the UK and the Commonwealth, but right around the world. And when she spoke, everyone listened. She did have that voice of impact. She listened. She was very influential. Even right down to COVID a couple of years ago and the Queen coming on saying that it's hard for us to be separated and that we will be together once again. Listeners, I don't know about you, but when I saw her, and I wasn't sure whether it was at the funeral or it was at the memorial possibly, but when the Queen was sitting there by herself, when the rest of the family was on the other side of the church and she was there by herself, that got to me. That got to me. That just shows me how fragile life is. But it also showed me how she as a leader stood there committed as a leader, even though she was there by herself. Yes, there's been turbulent times as well. We've all gone through turbulent times. But that strong foundation, along with the commitment, has built a foundation of stability for the world. The final word today is about service, and we have seen presidents and prime ministers and leaders globally come and go. But the Queen has been there all along. As I said before, those famous words in 1947, where she actually dedicated herself to servicing us. Whether you agree with the royals or not, you can't take away the superb service of 70 years by this remarkable person. The thing I'm hearing from people at the moment is that they will miss her, and how awesome she was working and serving right to her death, right till the week before, a couple of days before her death actually, whereby she was actually meeting Boris Johnson, who resigned as the Prime Minister, and then Liz Truss, who then became the Prime Minister. And we saw the photos of her and how fragile she was, but she was there to do her duty. She was there to do her service. And it's been pretty amazing to see. Because how many of you know of someone of 96 years of age been servicing people for 70 years? That's amazing. Now, this has been a massive example for all of us in serving people and serving full stop. She's been in the limelight the whole time. She's very much, or was very much, a people person. And you can see that coming out in the other royals and the way that they go to the crowds and they be there with them as well. But she's always been there for the people. Well, listeners, over the next 2 more episodes, I'm going to dive deeper into the leadership attributes to see what the Queen has demonstrated over her 70 years. Rest in peace, Your Majesty.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.